Hi guys, this is Razor Rock Joe from ItalianBarber.com. When I'm not testing new shaving products or strolling around the streets of Italy, I can be found listening to my favorite new podcast, Moustache Blade.
Welcome to the Moustache Blade podcast, a show dedicated to all things facial fur and traditional wet shaving in an effort to create global facial awareness. And now, here are your hosts, Douglas Smythe and Ryan Stephen Green.
Okay, welcome back to Moustache and Blade. I am Douglas Smythe.
And I am Ryan Stephen Green.
And it's good to be here.
Yes, it is.
Today's show is brought to you by Synergy Shaving Soap, which can be found at howtogrowmustachestore.com. And if anyone out there has a question for us about mustaches or blades, you can reach us, or rather leave your voicemail question for us that we will possibly play on air at 347-333-1511. If you're out of the country, just add 001 347-333-1511. You can also email us directly, either myself or Ryan. I am Douglas at mustacheandblade.com, and he is Ryan at mustacheandblade.com. Let's do this.
We have got a special guest today named Scott Brennecke of Captain's Choice. He makes aftershave, and he's going to tell you all about it.
Yes, and I'm really excited to have Scott on board here today. A big fan of Bay Rum in particular. It's my go-to cologne and aftershave. A true classic. Dating, I mean, might be one of the first aftershaves, I think, on the market and the longest living. So we'll find more out about that as we get along with this interview. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Oh, thanks so much. Glad to be here.
How you doing?
Terrific.
Great. I'm wearing your aftershave right now.
I'm in Illinois and you're in Massachusetts, and I just kind of have that sense that you just have it on.
I do. I always have it on. And Ryan is out over in L.A., and with the time difference, it's like breakfast, brunch, and lunch.
Yeah.
Got it covered.
So, let's just start with the history or how this all began for you, Scott.
Well, the short little background on it is I have a sweet tooth, and I'd stopped in a Walgreens to grab a Milky Way, and I grabbed that Milky Way candy bar, and out of the blue, for no reason, this thought came to me that being over the age of 50, I probably should buy an aftershave. And I thought, well, I don't know. I guess that makes sense. I've never bought an aftershave before. I've never used an aftershave before, but here I am in Walgreens. So I walked around the corner, and I unscrewed the cap on Old Spice, Brute, and Skin Bracer, and I sniffed them, and I just curled my toes at the smell. I thought, oh, my goodness, these are awful. And yet these are global brands that are shipped by the truckload all over the world. And as I stood there in the Walgreens, I thought, maybe I'll just try to make my own.
Oh, really? It hit you right then and there.
Yeah, it's nice to be naive once in a while.
I agree.
Because I came home, and it also helps to have a very tolerant wife. So I came home and got on Google, and I started in one place in Google and ended up way on,
Yep.
It's just a starting point. But
it's a rabbit hole.
Started buying supplies, and I started developing batches, and this went on week after week, month after month. And my wife's nature is one, she's a natural encourager, but she's also very candid. So it was not until we got beyond 4 months for the first time, she said, "Hey, Scott, I really like that one." And I thought, well, hey, maybe I've got something here.
Yes.
So I went on a very popular wet shaving site called Badger and Blade.
Oh, yes.
Had never been a part of an online community, didn't really even know what that was about. But I went on there and I put a post up and I said, "Hey guys, here's the deal. I've got developed a formula for a Bay Rum aftershave, and I think it's turned out pretty well. But I want to see what other people think. And I will send you a small sample and I will pay the postage. I just want you to come back to this public thread and share your feedback." I might interject here as well. During the 4 months, Our garbage smelled outstanding.
I know that.
It was all being thrown out. And I have a very tolerant brother in Ohio who kept trying it and shaking his head. So anyway, the guys on the thread, the samples went out. And, of course, everybody and their brother's reading what people think about it, and they tried it and so forth. And I sent out 40 samples, and 35 guys were raving about it. They said, Scott, you've got to come up with a name. You've got to get a bottle. You need to launch a website. So I thought, oh, my goodness, what have we done here? Now, I mentioned 35 out of 40 because there were 5 guys that said, hey, Scott, I wonder if you could tweak it in 2 ways. One, remove the clove, because clove is very common in the bay rum. Mm-hmm. And secondly, is there a way to ramp up the burn just a little bit?
Wow.
So I took their advice, and then for those 5 guys, I resent samples of the revised formula to them. And they, in unison, they said, you nailed it. Well, 2 guys used the same phrase, you nailed it. This is it. So I thought, okay. So even the 5 guys who were a little neutral about it, when I tweaked it a little, they said that's it. So that's the background on how I even developed the formula.
Wow, that's amazing. See, I'm the exact opposite. I look for a little burn. I'm not a big fan of the burn. I'm more of an aftershave bomb type of guy. But traditionally, I mean, that's what aftershave people are going in for, the burn.
Does it serve some sort of practical purpose, the burn? Because you say you can up the burn, or some guys might want more burn or less burn or whatever. What practical purpose does it serve?
Really, it's kind of personal preference. For example, it doesn't mean that your skin is more moisturized or more hygienic. It's kind of a personal preference on an experiential level. What do you like personally? Which kind of led me to my second aftershave. Actually, now that you bring it up. The bay rum was, the guys were, once we had a bottle and a label and a website, look out, it was moving. But I always keep an ear open for what else is out there? How can we do better? And occasionally guys would say, boy, they really like a lot of burn. So I started working on my second aftershave, which we named Cat o' Nine Tails. The Cat o' Nine Tails historically was a whip that was used back in the 1400s to punish the sailors that were trying to mutiny the ship. And I thought, when I come up with one that's got significantly more burn to it, it's a perfect name.
That is a perfect name. I didn't get it at first. I was thinking of the reeds, and now it makes perfect sense.
Very thematic.
Yes, I like that.
So Scott gets to be his own guinea pig, and I can assure you that let's just say I had some formulas that had way too much burn, and then I experienced at a very personal level, mainly with lots of face washing and shrieking with the family running, pounding on the bathroom door. Is everything okay in there? So, but anyway, came up with the revised formula of our Cat o' Nine Tails, did the same thing, sent out free samples. What do you think? And importantly, I sent samples of our bay rum and the Cat o' Nine Tails together so they could compare one against the other. And it was kind of the same deal. The guys raved about it. Oh, this is exactly. And if I recall right, when I posted the thread on that one, again on Badger and Blade, I said, this sample is really geared for guys who want more burn. So if you want more burn, sign up. And then same deal, sent them free samples, paid the postage, wanted them to share their thoughts in the public forum for everybody to read. And frankly, there's a lot of people that will read stuff. They may not participate in a forum, but they're reading it. So it does help to be in a public forum for others to read about it and look forward to trying it and anticipating it and kind of following the thread as it would go week after week and different guys' experiences.
No, I agree 100%. Forums will make you or break you. And they really, it's a free way to product test, with immediate feedback.
Now, you're during these 4 months that you're formulating and testing, the house is smelling, the trash is smelling.
Like a drunken sailor.
Yeah. You are, I'm assuming, working in another capacity. I mean, what are you doing to support this habit?
Well, this is our 25th year. I live in the Chicago area, and I have a I've been self-employed really most of my adult life. I have a popcorn distributorship where we distribute popcorn all around the metropolitan area of Chicago.
So cool.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. So I've been doing that. The nature of it is that I'm busy with it, but it is flexible. So I could spend my mornings filtering aftershave, and, well, a good example is today I've got popcorn deliveries this afternoon to make. But I was able to do, each day's busy, but loosely scheduled. And then my wife, she has her own bookkeeping business that she does for small businesses. So between the two of us, we've got 3 small businesses, and wouldn't have it any other way. I generally don't know what I'm doing the next day until 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the perfect team.
Yeah, we temperamentally we complement each other well. So after 29 years of marriage, it's a blessing to have somebody that's on your team and picks up where you're weak at.
Yes, yeah, working with each other's strengths. That's a lot of people don't realize that's key in running your own business, especially, having the right team around you. When you were sending this out to Badger and Blade, which is a UK forum, granted there are folks from all over the world on it, do you notice, because I noticed this in my own business with shaving soap, Bay Rum isn't as popular like in Europe, like in Germany, Eastern Europe. It seems like they're more about florals and whatnot. Have you noticed that in your business?
Yes, I would say I agree with you. And I have to wonder if the origins being in the Caribbean, that could be an explanation for why it's more well-known, in North America.
Right. I mean, it definitely started here and then probably made its way, well, between here and in Britain, right? I mean, the barbershops and so on and so forth. But it's been out there for, about 100 years now, 150 years, maybe more. And it's just still boggles my mind that it hasn't caught on in certain pockets of the world.
Mm-hmm.
How far around the world are you shipping this?
We're constrained. If you look on our ingredient list on the label, you'll see there's alcohol. And so
right.
The nature of it is it can't be on an airplane. Now, our customers, fortunately, we live in one of the most prosperous areas of the world, United States.
Yep.
So our customers are in the United States, and we have 3 wholesale accounts in Canada that do quite well with it in Canada because it can be shipped. It needs to be shipped via ground. It cannot be loaded onto an airplane. So we do a lot of business with FedEx. Now, having said that, it's always encouraging to me how creative people can be when they really want something. I get, it's probably every month or two, an email from a guy, for example, in Australia, England, New Zealand, Germany, Ireland, Italy, and so forth. And sometimes they'll include a picture. Hey, I love your stuff. And I think, I have no idea how he got it. So, and what happens is, the vast majority of our sales are wholesale, that we wholesale it to retailers, and they are online stores or they're brick and mortar stores, and they retail our product. We do have customers that buy from us direct. So when somebody buys it, for example, they could buy it from me and they could have it shipped to Des Moines, Iowa or something, and that's where it's shipped. Well, lo and behold, that is a sister of a guy who lives in Germany. And this sister in Des Moines puts it on an airplane. Well, clearly that's out of my hands. So here's the most recent example. Guy, this was a 3-month, very friendly email exchange with a guy who's from Italy. And he said, I want to buy your stuff. I keep reading about it and I keep hearing about it. And when I Google Captain's Choice, I can't believe how it shows up on the web, and there's all these different forums and so forth. Can you send it to me? And I said, well, I can't for the reasons I've just cited. And he said, well, I wonder if you could send it. My girlfriend is going to be in Newport, Rhode Island, and he gave me a week where she's staying at this hotel, and can you send it to the hotel? I said, great, no problem. So he paid for it up front. I shipped it during the time frame to have it arrive there in time. And she took it back in checked baggage, not carry-on, but underneath the airplane, back to Italy. And he sent me an email with the 2 bottles he bought from me out on his deck, looking out over the ocean.
Classic.
So there are people very, very determined when they keep reading about it and reading reviews. They can be creative.
It's always interesting, to hear the stories of how people are getting it into their hands.
Scott, how about this? You said this. I'm not sure if it's an obvious question or not, but you said that you spent the first 50 years of your life without using aftershave at all, and then you went through this phase, and you're still probably going through it of testing out different formulas, trying this one and that. Have you what differences have you noticed now that you, I'm guessing, are a regular user of your own aftershave? And is there difference to your skin? How do you feel? What has it been like on this side of that transition?
Well, it may sound self-serving for me to say so, but I recognize now what I've been missing out on. To answer your question specifically, our products have a moisturizing ability to them that is hard to find. So if you go buy the mass market ones and put them on your face, it's predominantly alcohol with very little skin care. So you get that initial splash, you smell great for a few minutes, or your coworker might say, no, they smell really awful all day long. But with our products, we get, you can read the reviews. You can go to Amazon and enter Captain's Choice Aftershave, and you can sit and read the reviews about the moisturizing ability that our products have. So that's the short answer to your question, is that now my skin, my face is moisturized in the morning, whereas before it never was.
Right. Well, you've gotten this far, and Captain's Choice has been around for how many years now?
Let's see, 2.5 years ago is when I developed the formula. The website was launched 2 years ago, literally from right now is when the website went up. And then we've been Murs Apothecary, which runs smallflower.com. They were my first customer only because they're here in Chicago.
Right.
I just walked in cold. I'd never been there before. And I had a sample with me, and I introduced myself, and the clerk said, well, just a minute, let me get one of the people in the back. And the fella came out, and it was Jeffrey. It's pretty lame when you're just stopping in cold calling, but I said, this sounds crazy, and I kind of told him my little story. And I'd read about you guys having a really awesome men's department here with all your shaving stuff, and I see it, and I just thought I'd stop and drop off a sample for you guys to try. And he said, oh, well, let me smell it. So he unscrewed the cap, and mind you, Murs Apothecary has hundreds, and it's a destination. They've got lots of stuff in there. A really impressive men's department. And his eyebrows went right to the top of his forehead. He said, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, these are guys that smell colognes and aftershaves all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Let me hold on to this. I'll talk to my brother Anthony when he gets done, and maybe check back with us in a week. So they were my first customer, and they moved the product. At this point now, I've forgotten what your question was. Did I answer?
I'm still blown away that you just used the word apothecary.
Yeah. I'm blown away, but that you've only existed for such a short while, and it seems like lately everyone we've interviewed has only existed for a short while. It's like this market is blowing up right now. Like the time is ripe for this to be happening with small artisans.
I can share from firsthand experience the wholesale account we've shipped to over. I used to know it's probably over 40 wholesale accounts around the nation. But of the ones, and some sell it more than others. It doesn't mean there's 40 good ones. There's probably less than half that do real well with it.
Right.
But the ones that do well, I've got a number of them that are either moving, or they're adding on, or they're remodeling, and it's all of their men's personal care departments, that they're outgrowing their area because of the demand in general for traditional shaving and for men's products.
No, it's really something else. This is like the renaissance right now for male grooming, or wet shaving, really. I can't say male grooming. That has more of a mainstream sound to it. But the whole wet shaving phenomenon that's happening right now is really, you're either doing it or you're creating products and doing it. It's booming, and it's really fascinating to me because a lot of these people we've interviewed or we talked to and whatnot, we just assume they've been around a lot longer than they have, and it's really inspiring that pretty much everyone's new to the game.
What's at the heart of it, Doug?
What's at the heart of it?
Yeah.
People, I think, are intrigued, and at the same time, it's just something we missed. It's something we're rediscovering that we was never shown or taught to us, and So it's just that beginners, like the thrill of something new, maybe. However, I don't see it disappearing either. New people are hopping onto it every day, and I mean, for me, anyways, I can only speak for myself. I don't know what it is, honestly, but it's just amazing to be kind of at the center of it, or at least close to the center, and seeing this happen all around.
I've got a thought about that. This is just my opinion, but we live in a very, very high-tech world, more so today than even just 5 years ago.
Yeah, yep.
And for a person to have emotional balance, I think with the high-tech world that everybody is inhabiting right now, I think they look for a high-touch experience. And traditional shaving is a high-touch experience.
Yeah, I think you're right on point with that. Ryan and I were just recently having a conversation very similar to that heightened personal time to yourself experience.
And just the intentionality of slowing down, say. I mean, I don't know what your reasons behind not using aftershave are, but I mean, from picking an aftershave to ordering it, to actually spending the extra minute or so it takes to open it up, put it on your face and put the thing away and wipe your hands off. I mean, it's like, who has time for these little details? And yet, as Doug was saying, we were talking about these kind of little details being the source of life, really, because it does force you to slow down, force you to be intentional about your time and what you want with it. And I mean, as silly as it sounds, certainly aftershave can be a part of that. So it's a really neat thing, I think.
So, Scott, tell us about your own personal wet shaving routine. Are you a straight razor? Are you a double-edged razor shaver? What's your story?
My whole life, I've always used a can of, shaving cream and so forth, with a cartridge razor from Gillette until, with a few appropriate hints, my wife got me a gift for Christmas one year that was a double-edged razor like my dad used to use. And so that was kind of a shift. All of a sudden, I'm, carefully putting this double-edged blade into a razor, and I noticed an improvement in just how close I was able to shave. And so that was kind of that first double-edged razor that my wife got me. That was the gateway drug that got me started. Because after that, I thought, well, hey, I need to get a brush. I need to get, oh my gosh, they have this shave cream that comes in a tube. What's that all about? And so now, my shave done, it's as if you had two rabbits and left them alone, and pretty soon they just
that happens.
So that kind of got me started. And as I got different shave creams and soaps and so forth, that kind of tied right in with that actually kind of set me up, I think, a little bit with developing our aftershaves.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that eventually I'm going to have to try a straight razor. So I thought, well, I bought one and I had been using it for a whole week without telling my wife, because I knew if she's, I'm not a real handy person. And
yeah.
she would always fear the worst. So after a week, I showed it to her, and her eyes popped open, and I told her I've been doing it for a week, and and I was still here to talk to her. So, what helped me with the straight razors was going to YouTube, and I looked up Geo Fat Boy, who is well known on YouTube for his instructional videos, and I just watched and watched and watched. There's a lot of nuances to straight shaving. But, and so I've got probably a dozen straight razors and probably a dozen shave brushes, and I kind of rotate things around like that.
I'm at the crossroads right now. Everyone's talking, we've just interviewed Brad from Maggot Razors, and he refurbishes, vintage straight edge razors. So, but after talking to him, I also have another guy on my site who does my video reviews, Nick, and he's doing a whole video of his evolution as a straight edge razor shaver, and so we're following him there. And it's like, oh God, now I got to pick one of these up. And I tried years ago without much success, but now I'm getting inspired again, listening to everyone talk about this. How about you, Ryan?
my story is well known to you because you're the one that's got me into this whole wet shaving thing. Yeah, I was a cream in a can cartridge guy myself, except for one exception. When I was in high school, I inherited a Rolls razor from my great uncle, and it was in absolutely pristine condition, still is. And I started using that, not all the time, but from time to time. So that I guess planted the seed way back in the day. But now, since Doug has shown me the way essentially and sent me all the goods I need, yeah, there's no going back. I mean, the straight razor thing,
You're not there yet.
I can't see myself using it ever, really. I like to look at it. I like to touch it sometimes, but I don't think I'm going to put it to my face.
Yeah, no, I once was like you, Ryan, but now, it's becoming more and more of a reality. It's becoming more and more evident that I need to get into this, especially with all our guests lately. It's just someone's trying to tell me something, I think, and it's time I pick one up. I think it's getting over that first, it's like anything else, that initial fear. I mean, having done this, Scott, I mean, you didn't tell your wife, so there was that. I mean...
Honestly, I think the way I kind of talked myself into it was knowing that men, back in the 1800s, this is how they shaved. And men, they were very simple men. They were farmers, they were laborers, they were factory workers. And I thought, come on, I should be able to do this. and then watching the YouTube videos helped me. And frankly, I use what's called a 3-pass shave. So you go with the grain of your beard and across the grain. And then the last pass is the only one you ever see in the movies. And that's where they go against the grain and they've got the skin pulled tight and they're taking the razor right under his chin. And you're going, somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
And, for a week, I just shaved with the grain only. And honestly, here's what happens. This is normal. What happens is the first month, there's a lot of trepidation because you think something bad is going to happen. But that's your best reaction because you're very careful. And after a month of doing it, what happens is muscle memory kicks in. And without any mental effort on your part, your wrist starts knowing when to twist, turn, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it just begins happening by itself almost.
I will say something that I feel I've missed out on in my education on shaving, what little there was prior to these last few months, and thanks to the efforts of Douglas Smythe to proselytize me, is there's an element of danger to shaving, even, and that's something that I don't think that the razor manufacturers really want you to know. It's dangerous to do this, And so what I realized after watching Mantic's videos actually was that there's technique involved in shaving. That's something I never knew. And that's something I just have been continually telling my friends about. I mean, when you think about it, you are putting a sharpened blade to your face. And that's, there is danger there, I found myself, being much more careful, even with the double edge. Even a couple times I've had to shave with cartridges just because I've been traveling or whatever. And even with those, I found myself being far more careful than I ever have in the past. So,
I think that one of the one of the easiest ways to set yourself up for a better shave is to actually shower first, so that beard is real soft. And that was a habit of 40 years I had to break because I would always shave first, then jump in the shower. And by flipping it, it makes a world of difference because those whiskers are nice and soft by the time you get to them. I think the one encouragement would be to enjoy the variety of your morning routine by having a selection of different soaps, different brushes, different razors that you can kind of rotate. I always looked at it as a task and, to be dispensed with and get on with my day. and that's not the case anymore. It's something I look forward to, selecting which shave cream I'm going to use, what razor I'm going to use, which aftershave I'm going to use afterwards. I've got 3 to pick from, and a whole bunch in inventory.
Yeah.
I think it's a very it's a fulfilling thing to kind of mix things up. That's been a lot of fun for me.
Variety with the software and the hardware, I guess is what you're saying. I like it. How many razors do you have? I mean, do you collect double-edged razors as well?
When I switched to straight razors, I kind of sold off a lot of my double-edge. I've got what's called a birth razor, so I've got a Fat Boy it's cased, it's got the original instructions, everything, and it was made during the quarter of the year when I was born. So I've got a Gillette Fat Boy, I've got a Slim, and I've got what's called a Black Beauty, so it's also a Gillette, but it's a more recent one from the 1970s. So I have maybe 5 or 6 that are double-edged, but then probably a dozen straight razors. And I've got, on my straight razors, you can, to some extent, based on what the stamping is on the tang of the straight razor, you can get a pretty good idea when it was manufactured. The other thing, the shape of the little tail where your little finger hooks, the shape of that can also be an indicator roughly when it was made. And I've got probably 3 of them that were made before the Civil War that I use.
Yes. And did you had them refurbished?
You know what? I sent them in to be honed. In some cases, I got new scales on them. And for those listening that may not know, the scales are essentially the handle that you would refer to them as the handle. And so in some cases, the scales were shot, and I had those replaced. And then sometimes I leave the original patina on the blade, and other times I have it polished to a high finish.
To remove all the pitting and whatnot.
Right.
Things of beauty, they are.
Yeah, I've had several of them done by a fellow over in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm trying to remember his website. I think it's exquisiterazor.com. And his name is Mark Yunt, and he's actually an artist. He does wood carving for very high-end condominiums in New York City where people want custom wainscoting and crown molding. So he does all that stuff by hand. He's literally an artist. And anyway, he kind of launched this on the side, and it's just taken off. When I get a razor back from Mark, it's just stunning.
Excellent. I'll have to put his website in our show notes for this episode. Is there anything coming up? Anything on the horizon?
Oh, yes.
And can we be on the mailing list for the sample audience?
Yeah, no kidding.
Literally, if you go to our Facebook page right now, literally, over the past 4 days, I've slowly been revealing what our next product's going to be. And
I love it.
This much of a hint I'll give you, it's not an aftershave, but it is a Captain's Choice product that is proprietary in nature. We are excited. We expect it to be on the shelves by the end of November, just in time for Christmas. So that's the next one that's coming up that we're working on. We also teamed up with a local potter, and she created some outstanding lather bowls for us that she's going to be making more of them for us soon. The guys love them. They love them.
Yeah. No, I'm a scuttle guy myself. Are they scuttles or are they just lathering bowls?
We have a scuttle that she makes for us, and then we have lather bowls as well. And interesting background on those lather bowls, I had seen where there's a retailer who was selling lather bowls. And you know how you can review a product and everybody can read the reviews. So I read the reviews on these lather bowls. And the guys love the lather bowls, but said, this lather bowl, it seems like it's hard to hold on to. It doesn't feel secure in my hand. Yeah. And if only there were ridges in the bottom of the lather bowl. So I thought, well, let me buy one of these things. So I bought one, and I had it, and I thought, it does seem a little unwieldy, and it's smooth on the bottom. So when I went to the local potter here, I took that lather bowl that I'd purchased, and I said, we need one smaller. We need one that has a button on the outside, and it's about the diameter of a nickel on the outside that has our company logo on it.
Yep. And
we need ridges in the bottom. So she did some prototypes, and I gave those out to guys I know in town here to try, and they said, oh my gosh. And now, mind you, these are guys who have never had a leather bowl. They have like the coffee mug. So
which are horrible.
Now they've got something with short sides on it. The brush is not clinking against the side of the
that's why they're horrible.
The mug.
Yeah.
The ridges help whip the lather up faster. The button falls naturally right to the thumb pad on your thumb. So you put your thumb on this button. The diameter of the lather bowl itself is a little smaller, so it's more secure. And it's so anyway. That's a product we just came out with here a few months ago, and our intent really is to hopefully come out with a couple products a year, maybe 3.
The ridges, because this is something that interests me as well. Are the ridges horizontal or are they vertical?
They're circular.
They're circular, so they're horizontal around the bowl.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I have a scuttle just like that. I was actually thinking myself of how I would like vertical ones to really create some resistance when I'm whipping up that. I see most of them do it the other way, and I didn't know if there was a reason for that. For me, I just would think it would create a little more resistance.
Sure.
Aiding in lather creation.
There's some great pictures on our website. It gives you a real good idea, but you're right. Our lather bowls have a short side to them, so a scuttle is deeper, for example.
Yeah.
And you could do that. But the lather bowls, it would be harder to do that.
Right.
We also had her make the sides of the lather bowls more concave. There were a number of tweaks that we used on that original lather bowl that I bought that we modified it, and it really came together nicely for us.
Scott, are you having fun?
Yeah. You know what? It's and honestly, that may not be the case for somebody else. I thrive on variety in my day. So I love it I love the idea that I'm really not sure tomorrow what I'm going to do until tonight, until I get it all laid out and the sequence of what I'm going to do. And then during the day, it can change. So I find it stimulating and exciting. I'm not somebody who would, I think of that show, The Office. That would be the death of me, to be in an office. I enjoy
Trapped.
I enjoy
Even with Michael Scott around?
I'm kind of a people person, and I enjoy being out and about. And a typical day for me, honestly, I work 14-hour days. And whether it's popcorn or whether it's aftershave, you put the two together, it's a 14-hour day.
Yep.
And that wasn't the case prior to the aftershave business 2 years ago. But with the second business and how well this is going, that's what's necessary to do. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It's when it's your own business, it's different. If I was an employee, who wants to work a 14-hour day? And like I say, my wife, she does probably, a fourth of the work easy. She's kind of, I might be the public face. She's the brains.
Yep.
So to answer your question, I have fun. I look forward to it every day. I love the feedback from customers, and I love to take care of service thing.
When you delved into this, entered the world of creating your own aftershave, did you really go back and do the history on it and everything else? Over the ages, all the different aftershaves that have been on the market, were there some recipes you borrowed from? What I find fascinating about aftershave, well, one of the things, in the history books anyways, is Listerine. Do you know Listerine? You probably do know this. Started off as an aftershave?
Honestly, I did not know that.
And so imagine being the first guy to gargle with it. But, yeah. Who knows where captains could be the next best mouthwash is all I'm saying. Just don't get pulled over after. Ryan, are you an aftershave user?
I have not really, in way back in the day, I was an Old Spice guy. High school and such. I'd always buy my dad, some Old Spice cologne, right, for Christmas kind of thing. There was a phase where I wasn't using it, and now I actually just use jojoba oil. There's no scent to it. It's just a natural oil, and I actually use it as a pre-shave too. So I'll get my face all warm and then put some jojoba oil on, then put my shaving soap, and that works for me. But listening to all this talk about the scents and everything, I'm like, man, I feel like I could use some of that scent. I kind of want to try this. Maybe there's something else that I'm missing here. So I'm being swayed as we speak.
That's our goal. Interestingly enough, jojoba oil, it's not an oil, it's a wax.
Is that right?
People call it jojoba oil, but it's actually a wax.
That I did not know.
FYI, for all the listeners out there. Anything else you'd like to touch upon, Scott?
I've been a man of faith my whole life, and I guess the one thing I'd like to touch on is that I didn't walk into the Walgreens with the intent to buy an aftershave. I would never want anybody to think, oh, Scott thinks he was divinely sent or had some divine intervention, but
even if he does have divine sense.
I caught that too. Yeah.
But seriously, at the Walgreens, that thought came to my mind, and it was not of my making, and yet, I wasn't given the formula. But I feel like God knew, hey, Scott's really persistent, and I just need to plant the seed with him, and he'll be off and running. And it's been a blessing to me personally. Just like I say, I enjoy the variety. I enjoy the creation from scratch. I enjoy the interaction with our customers, whether they're wholesale accounts or retail customers. And we're in an industry that's just slowly growing. We've seen it just in our 2.5 years. I've seen wholesale accounts of mine who are expanding because they're running out of warehouse space. So, the thing I'd like to add is it was not my idea to begin with, that I have a lot of help from my wife, that we have a lot of fun with it. And, we look forward to doing it for many years.
Good for you, man. That's the important part about it, too. I feel good supporting someone with this in mind. It's great, getting to know who's behind the products you're using.
Well, it's surprising too. It's important to a lot of people that it's made in the United States. I have people double check with, and they'll say, I've read through your website. Is this something you're importing, or is this made here? Because Bay Rum, it comes out of the Caribbean, so they think, well, is this guy just imported remodeling it, or does he actually create it? There's a real, in the last, just this time that we've been doing it, there's a real verification of, hey, I want to buy American.
Yep. No, that's definitely on a lot of folks' minds. I get that too.
Is this something that you are still making in your kitchen, Scott?
Well, we make it at the home, yeah, and we have had to actually do some minor remodeling to make this all work. And at one time, I was looking at some warehouse space. So for now, we are. And the beauty of that is it's a cottage business. You're dealing with somebody. This is what started the country, whether you're a blacksmith or for example, a soap maker. This is how they started. For now, we are. The remodeling has made it possible for us to make things work a little better. So, yes, for now, we are. As far as a couple years from now, it'll be interesting to see. I get inquiries every month from Europe. Yeah. People who want to it. And this is not something I'm soliciting. These are blind emails from people who want to import it. If something happens there, that'll change things. But it's going to be up to the person in Europe to figure out. The essence of it is the European Union, the regulations for personal care products are overly burdensome.
Yes.
They are excruciating.
Yep.
And in my personal opinion, it's the way for the EU to say no without saying no. So, for example, each product, and we have 3, would need to go to an EU laboratory for $3,000 worth of testing. Right. So, I'm sorry, I've got a lot of business here. But I think, if I can dream for a minute, I think, maybe there's some large chain of department stores over in Europe that says, you know what, we'll cover the cost, give us an exclusive for a year, and let's go. And so that's a game changer. I can't believe I didn't think to mention this earlier. I had my second meeting with Whole Foods.
Oh, I was just going to ask you about.
Yeah, it's exciting. We have a Whole Foods. It's in our town here, and met with the store manager, and he, with his index finger coming down on the table, he said, "I want this on my shelves before Christmas." So then you start the whole process of applying, filling out for all the right reasons. Very detailed applications on what is this all about, and samples sent, and for evaluation and all that. So we're in the middle of that, and here it is, mid-October, and they're doing their best to fast track it with the regional people here in the Chicago area, so we can get it on the shelves of the one store, and before Christmas. And if we do, then what goes with that is me being there to give free samples away, answer questions, tell them the Captain's Choice story. And I love doing that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah. In-store demos.
So, and if it goes well in one of the stores, then we'd they obviously track the sales data and we can approach a second store and a third and a fourth. To be really candid, most new products don't make it in a Whole Foods because there's so much competition.
Yeah.
But I've talked to other small businesses who are in Whole Foods, and they said that the key to it is to really nurture the product at that first store. So we have full intention to do that.
Oh, that is great. I wish you all the luck in that.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Scott, we are so thankful that you were able to sit and conversate with us today. It's been really fascinating, and we just really appreciate you joining us today. And wish you all the luck with your fine aftershave.
That's right.
Well, thanks so much. I've really appreciated the opportunity to be on here and be part of this podcast. I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and I just, it's been fun and love telling the story.
Oh, it's a great story too, and I think a lot of people are thrilled to hear it and finally get to meet the man behind it, the man and his wife.
Right.
It's been a real pleasure and a treat having you with us today, Scott. For everyone listening out there, you need to go check out captainschoicestore.com. He has 3 varieties of aftershave there. He also has that new shaving lather bowl that he was talking about just in time for the holidays. So please check it out at captainschoicestore.com. Thank you so much again, Scott. And, we'd like to get you back on the show sometime in the future.
Oh, I look forward to it. I'm always available.
Excellent. Talk to you soon.
Will do. Thanks for talking.
You have been listening to the Moustache and Blade podcast. Thanks for listening, and please leave us a review on iTunes. Almost clean shaven, but hardly clean cut. Moustache and Blade.